In the first century, a story was told about 10 young women waiting for a groom. They were divided into two groups, 5 who brought extra oil for their lamps, and 5 who carried only what was already burning. Modern readings often treat this as a simple lesson in logistics, a reminder to plan ahead. But that interpretation ignores the original setting of an immediate, life-altering threat, turning a survival guide into a mere household tip. This text identifies the story as a Parábola de crisis. The term suggests that the narrative was intended as a shock. It wasn't meant to comfort the audience, but to disrupt their routine by highlighting a test that arrives before a final transformation. The original audience lived within an atmosphere of religious tradition and social stability. Because they felt secure in their daily rituals, they lacked any sense of urgency, leaving them blind to the fact that their entire social and spiritual world was reaching a hard limit. We usually view time as an infinite resource, something we can always manage later. This parable insists on a definitive endpoint, a moment where the clock simply stops. Success in this story isn't about being organized. It is about recognizing that the window for personal change eventually closes for good. To understand the stakes, we have to look at first-century Jerusalem. Wedding celebrations were massive community events that reached their peak during a nighttime procession to the groom's house. While we often imagine small clay lamps like these, they weren't the primary tools for a loud outdoor parade. The women actually carried torches, thick sticks wrapped in rags and soaked in oil. These rags burned through fuel rapidly, making a separate vessel of oil a requirement rather than an option. Cultural delays were expected. Negotiations between families often stretched into the night, and in this story, the wait lasted so long that all 10 women eventually fell asleep. Falling asleep was a shared human reaction, not a moral failure. The crisis was triggered specifically by the 5 who failed to account for the possibility of a delay. A cry at midnight ends the wait instantly. The transition from silence to action is immediate, forcing everyone to face the state of their equipment. The torches of the 5 unprepared women begin to smolder and go dark. Without backup oil, they are left with charring rags and no way to reignite them. When they ask to borrow oil, the others refuse. To a modern ear, this sounds like selfishness, but the story is framing oil as something that physically cannot be moved from one person to another. In this context, the oil represents internal spiritual readiness. It is the result of a life lived a certain way, which makes it impossible to lend or borrow in a moment of panic. As this research indicates, this preparation is a combination of personal faith and ethical actions that prove that faith is real. Therefore, the text notes each person must accept responsibility for their own preparation. The refusal is a warning. Your ethical state and your relationship with the divine are your own responsibilities, and no one can step in to fulfill them for you when the window closes. The 5 unprepared women leave to find a vendor, but they return to find the celebration has already moved inside. The moment they were waiting for has passed them by. They find a closed door. When they call out, the groom provides a final disavowal. I do not know you. This illustrates a difficult truth. The opportunity for change is not infinite. It has a boundary that, once crossed, cannot be reset. There is a period allowed for preparation, a time of patience. But this period ends at a specific hour, marking the point where the time for preparation is replaced by the reality of the result. The instruction to watch is a call to live every day as if it were the final opportunity for action, rather than a prompt to count dates on a calendar. Watching means active service and personal study. It is the consistent practice of justice that keeps the flame alive through the long hours of the wait. We cannot control when the groom arrives, but the state of our own lamps right now is entirely within our hands.